Hey guys, what's going on? This is Roth. I'm here with Max. We're going to talk a little Boba Fett.
That's my favorite thing to talk about.
In the whole world. You have tattoos.
I do. I have a Boba Fett tattoo. I've always loved Boba Fett. For those of you in the comments about to say that Boba Fett's overrated, I don't think you fully grasp why Boba Fett is a big deal.
Well, we're going to talk about this because guess what, folks? Boba Fett, the second Star Wars Anthology movie, is in fact, as rumored, going to be a Boba Fett-centered movie. However, what we don't know is when this is going to take place. What we know so far is that Josh Trank, who was set to direct it, is off the project. They're scouting new directors right now. There's a rumor that they're looking at Joss Whedon. There's a rumor that Boba Fett will show up in episode 7.
Ooh.
There are all kinds of rumors. There's a rumor that the original Boba Fett would be killed and be taken out. Basically, somebody would take his armor and become a new Boba Fett.
Yeah.
What I want to know from you, sir, what do you want from a Boba Fett movie?
So when you look at Boba Fett, I think you kind of have to break down why he's cool and why he works. And really, I think he is the character equivalent of the Millennium Falcon. Like, he is exactly that Star Wars use future aesthetic that people really love and what makes that whole series work. His character was originally designed as a super trooper. Like, you see early prototype costumes that it was Joe Johnston and Ralph McQuarrie working together. But the budget was too tight to have a whole army of guys with jetpacks. So they just had one. Yeah. And he became this kind of this mysterious, this kind of gunslinger. He actually
Rogue warrior.
Exactly. He was actually kind of inspired by Clint Eastwood in the Man with No Name trilogy. And to the point where, like, Ben Burt added like a jingling sound effect when he walked to kind of mimic spurs. It doesn't say anything, it doesn't really do much in the movies, but the whole thing is you kind of look at him and you're like, this guy is wearing his story. Like, his character design is hugely influential. If you just look at, like, no characters really had that going on for them. I mean, he had a jetpack, which is cool too. What I'd like to see from a Boba Fett movie, though, is something that draws a little bit from the comics that came out from Dark Horse in the late 90s that were done by John Wagner and Cam Kennedy, who were the team who worked most notably on Judge Dredd together. Judge Dredd's a very similar character to Boba Fett, both kind of aesthetically. He's got the helmet that hides his face and everything, but also he's this sort of like very like kind of like lawful good, very motivated by his own morals kind of thing. And
You're calling Boba Fett lawful and good?
Boba Fett is very strictly driven by his rules, but also by money. He's got a code of ethics. And if you read some of the he's a mercenary, but he's got if you read certain stretches of Expanded Universe, specifically the ones in Tales of the Bounty Hunters and Tales from Jabba's Palace, they kind of really paint an interesting picture of him as this kind of just this sort of world-weary soldier. He's,
Well, knowing that in fact it is the movies and the Clone Wars and Rebels that are canon and the new books and comics that are coming out, knowing that it's going to have to stick with what's already been established about that character.
Unless they do the thing where his mantle is overtaken by someone else, which is how they actually retconned the existing Expanded Universe that I just referred to and made it kind of gel with the existing, or the movie stuff. They basically made he was known as Jaster Moreel at one point, but then they made Jaster Moreel be this guy who was friends with Jango Fett, and they were kind of part of this, Mandalorian Super Commandos thing together. What I really like is the simplicity of Boba Fett, and I think if they're going to really, and this is something that I know kind of ruffles some people's feathers, but J.J. Abrams at Celebration said that Star Wars is a Western.
Yeah, well, it is.
Totally. No, I completely. It's a Western in space.
Yeah, absolutely. Wait, whose feathers were ruffled?
Just some people were like, I don't like cowboy movies, I like spaceship movies. And it's like, you're looking stylistically speaking.
Absolutely.
What's interesting though is, I mean, Lucas was unabashedly a huge fan of Kurosawa. And so was Sergio Leone, who made the Man with No Name trilogy, putting Clint Eastwood in the famous, cowboy gunslinger role that Boba Fett was inspired by. I think probably the best Boba Fett movie we could get would be sort of a Star Wars retelling of Kurosawa's Yojimbo, or Fistful of Dollars, where Boba Fett comes to town and let's say he's maybe playing the Hutts against the Empire or the Hutts against another crime lord, but really just kind of make it kind of this gritty Western. It's less about like the main guy and his motivations and more about how he's kind of interacting with the world around him.
You, sir, have pitched my favorite take on that I've heard so far, because our colleague Jim Vejvoda, both of us are saying, like, that's kind of the intrinsic worry about Boba Fett, is that what makes him fascinating is that he is the quiet, silent gunslinger in the Western. And so if he starts talking and we learn things about him, that mystery is taken away. But You found a great solve.
No, so you got to find out how he's.
So do you want to retcon it? You want a new Boba Fett?
I want it to exist kind of almost timelessly. Like I was saying, if you read the comics, they're just set on these really weird kind of outer rim planets that are so kind of screwed up and so backwater that they feel more like Mad Max. And where they're set in the canon is really mostly irrelevant. I mean, it's kind of even unclear if Boba Fett's been in the Sarlacc or not.
Yeah.
Somebody can tell me that I'm wrong there and that they do set.
Well, but in the movies he will have been, because all of that will have happened. But the way around it, like you said, is that this is a new Boba Fett that's taken his identity.
Yeah, it's just wearing the helmet. You know, that could work. I like the idea of really it being kind of a simple story. You know, and if we're gonna have people driving the story with expository dialogue and so forth, maybe have them be like annoying sidekicks. A bartender or something. That could be cool.
So what's your one-line pitch? You kind of just said it.
Yeah. I mean, I would say fistful of dollars.
Meets.
But with Boba Fett, throw in a little bit of Drive. The guy in Drive didn't talk much either. That was pretty badass.
He almost never talked. That's absolutely true. All right, there's your Boba Fett movie. I hope you're listening, Disney, because I'm on board with it. I love it. I think it's a great idea. Let us know what you think. What do you want out of a Boba Fett movie? Do you want a whole new Boba Fett? Do you want the Boba Fett that you've known and loved? Leave your comments below. And for all things Star Wars, Boba Fett, and Kurosawa.
Yeah, Kurosawa.
Keep it locked right here at IGN.